Hey guys, it's Carrie Danger of the Carrie Danger podcast, and today I am joined by Scott Franklin of the Lost State of Franklin. And Scott is going to be performing with his band at the 12th Annual Love Muffin Palooza. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It is so great to get to know some of the bands that are going to be at the Palooza. I'm the MC of the night, and I'm really excited to be partnering up with Adam on the Love Muffin Palooza and raising awareness and funds for the Gathering House. And in case anyone out there wants to know right now and they want to go buy their tickets now, thetreelawn.com. Tickets are about $12.58. And there's over 125 raffle prizes, vendor tables from local artists and other businesses. Doors at 6, music at 7. We've got a huge lineup of music at the Treelawn over there on Waterloo. So we're going to dive in with one of the bands that'll be performing, and that is Lost State of Franklin. So, Scott, how many years how often have you performed at the Palooza? Is this your first time?
Oh, this is my first time. Yeah, yeah. But the reason why we're performing is that 30 years ago, I was at Bowling Green, and I knew Adam Rich, but and I would see his posters all over and talk to him once in a while. He doesn't remember me, but which I understand because we only met a few times. But I know him just because after I think he left the music department and studied something else, but he still had posters all over campus. So I always remembered his name. So I saw him on Facebook recently, and we started talking, and he said, "Hey, would you like to do the Palooza?" And I said, "What's it about?" And he told me, and I said, "Yeah."
Yeah, it's a really awesome event to not only just bring awareness to local musicians, but number one, benefiting the Gathering House. And we'll get into that again here later on in the episode. But I love that little anecdote about knowing Adam from before, whether he remembers it or not. Um,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's really
But
cool.
he's excited, because either way, we get to see each other after 30 years.
Oh, yeah, he's great. So you guys, you say 30 years of, no contact with him for just life reasons, but you guys have been around Lost State Franklin for nearly 20 years making music. Now looking back, did you ever imagine that you'd still be making music together all these years later, or what was the deal?
I mean, I think the answer would be yes, except we don't have the same personnel that we did back then, but I definitely had high ambitions when we started. And and so those ambitions haven't panned out, but other ambitions that maybe I didn't count on have, like the people who the music does mean something to, that's definitely, it all makes it worthwhile.
That's
And
cool.
so the people that are in our lineup now, our current lineup, the person that's been there the least has been there about 11 years, and then our bassist has been with us for 17 years, I think.
Wow.
So they've all been in it for a while, even though it's not the original lineup.
Friends for life. That's
Yeah.
cool. Music will really bring people together. Now, your story starts with growing up between Virginia and North Carolina before finally settling in Cleveland. How do those two worlds kind of influence how you write the music today?
Well, some people say that I move a little slower. So I think there's a part of me that moves a little slower that likes to. I like to look at different scenarios, or I even call them scenes, that maybe it'd be a scene in a song, and I like to see it in slow motion. But at the same time, I have a lot of songs that have a tremendous amount of words, and I feel like that comes from the more urban influences, and from whether it's music or industry, in a more faster paced life, and also one of the things I've always noticed about Cleveland, and pretty much anywhere that's a city, is that even in these city urban places, there's tons of nature. Even there can be an old factory, and there's trees growing up all around it. There's grass coming up through the abandoned train tracks, and that's all. There's always a river somewhere, or a creek, or so. There's definitely nature even within that urban atmosphere, and to me, I feel like that's sort of like my writing.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Cleveland has a lot of nature, and that's why I like staying here. I'm from Tennessee originally, so when you say you kind of have been told you move a little slower, that's the southern in you.
Yeah.
I yeah, I lived in North Carolina for a minute, and working in Ohio versus working down south, it's like, why are you guys going faster? But I know.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now, you told a story about hearing Hank Jr. blasting from the bar across the street while you were trying to sleep. Like, at what point did you realize that those memories were going to be like a foundation for, what you do today?
I think I knew when I started Lost State of Franklin, so I would across the street in Emporia, which was a really small town, and we lived on a state route, and across that state route was a bar, and it wasn't like a state route, 4 lane. It was 2 lanes or whatever it was. It didn't have a median, so it wasn't that far across the street, but it was far enough. So every weekend, yeah, I would hear that. I always called it a country thump. I don't know if anybody else calls it that, but there was just doom doom doom, and I never knew until I started Lost State of Franklin that it's this. I always thought it was the sound of the bass, but it's the sound of the bass with the bass drum. And so when I started Lost State of Franklin and we had that sound, I said, oh my God, this is like going back to the beginning."
Oh, that's cool. That
Yeah.
country thump. I love that. And you actually studied jazz trumpet before picking up the guitar. How was that transition for you, learning the guitar and also kind of like figuring out how you were going to make your sound in a different way?
Well, I mean, going even back a little bit further, so I grew up on country music, and then some Beatles, whatever records my parents had, Elvis and all that. And if you'd asked me in high school, what do you like? I was always listening to Whitesnake or Anthrax or you know Metallica, and then I also liked some of the pop music. Like I think her name was Samantha Fox, or I liked the pop music as well. So I liked all of it. And then I went to college, and they really shunned anything. A lot of the people, not everybody, but a lot of the people in the jazz circles shunned anything that wasn't true jazz. And so I had all these records I sort of kept in secret: John Denver and Johnny Cash and all that stuff. And at some point I started scribbling on pieces of paper, and I didn't know why. It was like I just got to write these words down. So I would have napkins and paper bags, and I took a poetry class my last semester of college, and and in that class I discovered, oh, I'm a poet. And so after college, I still was just playing trumpet because I just couldn't get the guitar. I tried many times through college. I couldn't. So I stayed on as a trumpet player, and I would have friends. I would take my poetry, and maybe I'd have a bass player, and we'd go play at a bookstore somewhere or a venue or whatever. So he'd play bass lines, and I would read my poetry over top, turn it into maybe sing, improvise the melody as I went along, put some trumpet over it, and then eventually it got really hard to go out places, and we weren't making any money, and so I'd have to come up with $25 out of my pocket or 40 or whatever, and I said, well, what if I learned guitar? So at that point, I, I started playing guitar, and that's sort of when I I feel like I kept my jazz influence at that point, but that's when all the roots started to come back. I have this guitar; it's really easy to go back to the roots. And another thing is I play piano, and I know a lot of chords on piano. And so when I started writing music, I had a choice: do I want to play piano so that I can accompany myself, or do I want to play guitar? And and obviously a guitar is easier to take everywhere. But my other thought was, when I was writing songs on piano, I felt like they would be so complicated because I knew too much. They would be so complicated I couldn't get finished. Or maybe I would take them one step farther than they should be. And with the guitar, at the beginning, I was so bad at guitar, it was so hard for me that I could just do C, F, G, A minor, and it was like, oh, now this opens up, space for the song to fill in, and instead of me trying to make the music complicated, and it's grown from there. I got a little bit better than just playing 3 chords on the guitar since then, but
I hope so.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that so much. I played the trumpet in the jazz band and the marching band when I was in high school. I didn't
No
take it
way.
anywhere, but I really
What
enjoyed
high
it.
school?
I went to Norwayne High School out in Creston, Ohio.
Oh,
It's
okay.
real country, real rural.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of Creston once or twice.
Oh, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
the peekaboo town. You just drive right through it. They got a light, I think, maybe. No, I don't think they have a light.
No. Well, maybe they have one now. So,
Maybe they do now. It's been a minute. I know they have a Dollar General, so they're going places. Um,
yeah.
That's cool. So you've got the guitar. I
Hmm.
think that's so funny. The guitar really is easier to take places. Yeah, because pianos, I mean, they're so heavy.
Yeah, you
You've
got to
got
put
the
the
guitar.
stand up and
Yeah, you're blending your sounds, and I see you've got like Americana, rockabilly, the country, the jazz, the bluegrass, a little Texas swing, that country thump. How would you like when you are thinking about genres? Um, do you like to put yourself into a box, or are you just kind of like we just do what feels good, the feel good genre?
yeah, well, when I started, um, the term Americana was new. Now it all kinds of things fall under Americana, and it's just sort of like a generic term now overall. But it was new then, and I always felt like that described it best because if people would say that I was country, I would say, well, what about this jazz? And then they would say, well, you're rock, and I'd say, well, what about the country? And so I just sort of decided uh, well, I know a long time ago Duke Ellington, famous jazz musician, he said there's no such thing as he said there's only two kinds of music, good music and bad music. And so I just tried to live by that. I'm just going to make a song, whatever comes out, and that's what it's going to be.
I think that's so
So,
great and such a good way to be too. I mean, I think so many people, you said Americana is like a very big umbrella, and that's kind of how it is with alternative. People would always ask like, well, what really constitutes a an alternative song? And it's like everything, I guess. I mean, all from the norm and what's the norm, and so I like that. There's good music, there's bad music. You fall where you fall,
yeah,
and hopefully you fall on the good side. Oh, that's cool.
I
And
hope.
I also like that you described it as we make music made by our own hands. Now, in this world, it is so common that people are using um, tech to make the sounds they want, which there's no hate on that. Do what you got to do. Obviously
Hmm.
808 drums and things like that, drum kits, like, because I like, a lot of hip hop and R&B and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's I think nowadays, for example, Muse just released a song, not just, but it's been a minute, called Be With You. And they use a real pipe organ, like a real church organ that they found in LA in a church, and they played on it instead of using just AI to help them do that, or even like a keyboard, to make that sound. They
Right.
really went for the true, real sound. So, what does it mean to you to still be sustaining a real sound without utilizing the tech like a lot of musicians do?
Um. Yeah. Well, as far I mean, and I do some things on my own where I use some tech or
Yeah.
this isn't quite going to answer your question, but before the band, I played with a group. I played trumpet with a group called Infinite Number of Sounds.
Cool.
Probably before you were born, but and that was they used real instruments, but then they also had these really elaborate backing tracks, and then they would play with they would have all these movie clips that hey, they would bring a screen and set it up, and they would play all these segments of old movies, or but it was all set up and to go right with the song, and everything was very exact. You were never going to play I could play differently because I was making up what I played on the trumpet, but there was never going to be the song was never going to be 1 beat longer or 1 minute longer or have an extra jam because it was all matching the tracks and everything. So and I think some of their basis where they started was off of the 808 that you're talking about.
Oh
So
yeah, I
then
like that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I loved that, and I loved playing along with that. Yeah, and then to come to when I started Lost State of Franklin, I kept having these thoughts in my head. How I said it brought back my roots, and um I always I just kept seeing dirt roads. I kept seeing, you know, people that maybe they had to walk to work, or if not, it was always, but it was a lot of dirt, and to kind of reflect how hard they had to work, how nothing was given to them, and they didn't have much, and I just thought about that, the work, they worked with their hands, and I thought, well, that translates to us. So as far as Lost State of Franklin, not as far as me, but as far as Lost State of Franklin, yeah, there's never been anything, un I don't know what you say, unearthy or unorganic
Yeah.
as a
I like
part of the music.
unearthly. I like that.
Yeah.
No, that is so cool. I really like when bands incorporate clips from movies. Um,
Hmm.
there's some Sublime songs that come to mind, where they use parts of like Reefer Madness and some stuff like that. And I like a lot of, you'd probably like this too, like lo-fi songs that use clips from like Alan Watts. It's kind of like expand your mind, man, kind of music. And so,
Yeah.
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 Oh, that's so awesome. Now, you've shared the stage with some legends like George Jones and Ralph Stanley, and you've even performed in France. Is there like a performance that really stands out as like a defining moment?
Oh, a defining moment. I'm sure there is, and maybe if I thought about it, I mean, I can tell you I have two favorite moments. I
Okay.
don't know if they're defining, but two favorite moments were when we played the festival in France. It was this little town called Belfort, but and the backdrop is this huge. Well, Stone Mountain in Georgia is just a carving on the side of a stone mountain. Well, it's similar to that, except it's a carving of a lion. Okay,
Yeah.
so you have this huge backdrop behind the stage, which is this giant stone mountain with a lion carved into it, and and they had people like just everywhere. Like we were slightly out of the town, and all of the space was filled with people. You could see all the way back into the town was filled with people. They said that there was like 10 or 15,000 people present, and so obviously that doesn't sum up my career, but that was amazing to get
Yeah.
to play for all those people, and but then at the same time I used to play the Barking Spider, and so I don't know if you ever remember that.
No, I
It
don't know
was it was
that.
a it was a spot in Cleveland, and they had music. It was an old. It used to be a carriage house, back in the old days, and then became a venue. Now I think it's a Dave's Cosmic Subs or something. And but as this old little carriage house turned into a venue, and they not only did they have music 7 nights a week, they had music 7 days a week. So basically, probably from 5 o'clock to midnight on the weekdays, and then on the weekends, I'm think it probably started around noon or 2 o'clock or something. But it would, and you didn't make a lot of money playing there, but everybody wanted to play there. And if you talk to a lot of, touring artists, singer songwriters around the country, most of them would say, "Yeah, I played the Barking Spider," and it was a listening room. People would come in and they paid attention, and I feel like that was also one of the highlights of my career, is all the times I got to play there before they unfortunately closed, because it was like, then it was playing in France was great because you have this big crowd and you feel important, and playing at the Barking Spider for 25 people, everybody is into the same. It's like you're all about the meaning of the words or the feeling of the song. It's not entertainment. It's more about the meaning. And so, yeah, to me, both of those.
I think that is so special. Two different sides of the spectrum. The Barking Spider sounds like a place I would love to work. Oh my gosh. That is so
Oh,
cool.
you would have loved it.
I'm
Yeah.
going to be asking everyone about that from now on.
I mean, you look like everybody that worked there. So,
Yeah, man, I just like to get down with some rock and roll, dude. I love it. This is so fun. I cannot wait to see you at the Love Muffin Palooza this year. What excites you most, other than getting to reconnect with Adam? What excites you most about being part of this event that brings community together and raising money for a really great cause?
Well, being my first year with this, I'm not 100% sure. I forget how many years they've done it in a row, but isn't it like 10 or
I think
15 or 20
12.
or 12? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, when you when I think about what the purpose is and the cause, to be able to do that for 12 years means that they were successful at their goal. It means they didn't, you know, say we want this and then $150 came in or something. It means that he's carried it on year after year, so it means something to people. It's effective and it's for a good cause, and to me, that's what. Well, and then of course the great bands, so that makes me want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you guys play live. What can newcomers, I guess, people that are going to be there, what can they expect from Lost State of Franklin on stage?
Well, we already came up with our set list, so
Ooh,
which I don't have memorized, but I know we're going to do a song I wrote about Clint Eastwood. It's not the same as the Gorillaz song.
I was
It's
to
a
say, oh
it's
yeah?
a yeah. No, it's about Clint Eastwood, and we're going to do another song that we just call it the Latin song. I can never remember the name. I call it the beautiful song with no name, and I googled to find out how to say that in Spanish, and I never remember. So we just call it the Latin song. But it's like if you've ever listened to people like Tito Puente or even some Maynard Ferguson, I feel like it's sort of along those lines. That's an all instrumental song, all centered around the trumpet, and it's got a big drum solo in the middle. And I believe we're gonna do Trains, which is a song about my great grandfather who rode trains and 100 years ago or something. So, but
That's
we
cool.
have an upright bass, which is a lot of people see the band and they say, oh, it's a rockabilly band. So that's definitely an element of what we do.
Okay.
But we have the upright bass. We have a drummer who he just can do anything. He can play rock, jazz, heavy metal, folk, whatever. And then we have a steel guitarist who I love because I love the steel guitar, but most of the time the steel guitar will kind of lock you in a box, and you are a country band.
Hmm.
And this guy's been Dan Morris. He's been playing with us for 11, maybe 12 years now, and he incorporates different sounds and distortions and delays and all kind of things so that he's outside of that box. So if I say, okay, we're not going to be doing this song at Palooza, but we do a version of Sweet Child of Mine that starts out sort of like Southern rock, but then when it gets into the solo, like he plays these amazing solos, and that I think even the greatest country steel guitarists couldn't play. And for people that don't know what a steel guitar is, it lays down, and it's sort of like sideways laying down, and they use this little bar to, yeah. So there aren't really frets, you don't press it down, but they have this little bar that goes across and finger picks, and
Think like
um
George Harrison and like that kind of stuff, That's like My
yeah,
Sweet Lord, that kind of vibe. Like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so yeah, so he can be a guitarist or he can be a steel guitarist, but all on that same instrument. And and then also, what else could be expected is I play a Telecaster guitar, which I love the sound of the Telecaster, and so I just have kind of always stuck with that. And but also gonna play some trumpet that night.
I was gonna
And
ask, are you gonna bust out the trumpet?
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, I'll play that on the Latin song.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
so excited. Like, I love all genres of music. I mean, you name it, I'm into it. Um, and I just love like a flamenco, like plucky Spanish, Latin style. It's just so nice and it just makes you feel good. It feels like getting your feet outside barefoot on the ground.
yeah, probably because it was all that kind of music is just all based off of emotion.
Hmm.
So if it's done right, you can really feel the emotion.
Well,
Yeah.
I am just so excited to see you guys play live. And if you don't mind telling our viewers and
Hmm.
listeners where they can keep up with Lost State of Franklin, where can we listen to stream your music? Do you have a website? Where can we keep up?
Well, yeah, the website I prefer is jscottfranklin.com, the letter J, and then scottfranklin.com. There is a loststateoffranklin.com, but I'm sort of moving that over to J. Scott Franklin.
Okay.
So if you go there, that that has all of our updates and information, and it's still in the works of building up a page just specifically for them there, but you can still listen to all the music there. All the albums that I've made, I think I have 4 albums posted on there, maybe 3. 2 of them are Lost State of Franklin. So jscottfranklin.com.
Wow, this is great. I am just so excited. Once again, everybody, if you want to see Lost State of Franklin and all these other amazing bands come out and support the Gathering House, all you have to do is go to thetreelawn.com, get your tickets while you're there. They're less than $15, so that's a big win because, again, the money goes directly to the Gathering House, which is such a great organization. Again, the Treelawn on Waterloo, doors at 6, music at 7. I guess I better tell you when it is. It's on August 9th. That's a Sunday evening. So I am going to be emceeing. I can't wait to hang out with Scott and everyone over there at the Treelawn when we're jamming out and having fun, raising money.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you. This has been such a treat. I really appreciate coming on the Carry Danger podcast.
Yeah, well, I've really enjoyed being here, and I was wondering if it was going to be dangerous, Carrie Danger, but it was. I felt safe.
Very safe. I will keep you safe.
Okay, okay,
Oh, I
thank you.
love it.